Welcome to the DSHEL Podcast. I'm your host, Theo, and this is your co-host, Eric. And today we have another special guest, DSHEL.
Yes, I'm DSHEL, and I'm here for some cool lifting.
All right. So we got several different types of questions for you. So
we'll just freestyle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, free ball it. And you know, like, so how long have y'all been doing this podcast?
I want to say this is episode 38 or 39.
Yeah.
38.
We
38?
do them weekly.
Dang, okay, y'all are rolling. And so, like, are your podcasts just kind of, do you have a theme or you kind of, like, go a direction with it? Or is it just based on the visitors that you have or just the topics that you think of? And
we try and make the topics for the guests a little more unique towards them.
Yeah. Towards them. Okay,
so a lot of this was just stuff we've talked about in the past that I thought would have been really good just for everyone.
Just good topics and stuff.
Okay. Mostly educational.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, some people will give their insight on their personal coaching.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'll try my best with the questions provided and try and keep them.
I think I've known you for 7.5 years.
Man, I can't believe
crazy.
It's been 7.5 years.
Theo's known you for an hour.
Yeah.
I've known Theo for about 45 minutes. So.
But I guess, like, we usually ask people, like, a really brief, like, history. So, like, how'd you get into powerlifting?
Oh man, that was a long time ago. So I remember back then powerlifting wasn't even a thing in my mind, and you know, I went and did bench and arms with a buddy for I think a year or two, and then I went to college, and I pretty much I got good at benching pretty quickly, like across those 2 years. But I played ultimate frisbee. I had an ice hockey background, and I eventually went on to play some volleyball as well. So an ultimate frisbee and through college. And my primary goal was just running faster and jumping higher. So when that happened, I said, well, what's the best thing to do? I'm already light and pretty fast. I probably need to increase power. I need to get more power output. And so I started looking into just things that looked simple enough to do, and come to find out squatting and deadlifting were some of the more, popular ways to do that. So long story short, did a lot of bench, upper body, stuff like that for a little bit, and then got into squatting and deadlifting just to get better at my vertical. I wanted to jump higher. That's actually what I wanted to do. Ended up jumping pretty high, like
40 inches?
I had a 42 inch.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I had a 42 inch vertical at one point. And then I just hit some diminishing returns with that. But the squatting and the deadlifting became something that I was like, I could probably keep raising the ceiling at this. So let me try. That's kind of how that ended up. It wasn't even that I tried to power lift on purpose. Like, I feel like back then nobody really tried to power lift on purpose. We were all kind of just at the gym, and then like squatting, benching, and deadlifting was just a common thing to do. So didn't get into the actually programming for squatting, benching, and deadlifting, doing any of that until like 2014, 2015, even 2015-ish. So
okay.
But yeah, that's kind of how I got started, and so I pretty much had a 5-year foundation of anything from a weighted dip to incline to weighted pull-ups.
What was the heaviest weighted dip?
The heaviest weighted dip? Oh, man.
There's some clips.
And see, I used to push those super hard. So I remember I remember the day, actually. I think I actually have the video still, where I did 4 plates and a 25 on the belt for, I think I did like 3 or 4 reps. And I was like, I'm going to try 5 plates today. So I tried 5 plates. My goal, I was trying to get 2, and I ended up getting 1. So I ended up incidentally finding my 1 rep max on a weighted dip. And so it happens to be 5 plates on the dip. And back then that was egregious. I remember being in the UTD gym and just people thinking I was the wildest person in there. Like, what what kind of dumb stuff is he going to do today? Like, I did all my box jumps in there and all this stuff. It's just, people were just watching to see if I was just going to fall off of it or something. So it's kind of just how it started. But,
I guess like you have your own podcast and you have like videos of like equipment and stuff. And I heard someone say they put this really well. Like you're someone who gets into like rabbit holes with like certain equipment and things like that.
Not quite. Like, okay, so what is a rabbit hole for one person is something that really made a difference to another person.
Yeah.
Rabbit holing is the idea that something is going to maybe be good, but maybe be bad. And then the outcome is more a type of dream than a real application of something, right? Which I will rabbit hole too. I actually like rabbit holing just for the fun of it as well, because usually I will reach some really cool answers from that. But I wouldn't say that the rabbit holing is for the equipment and things like that, just more because I've seen drastic changes in people's form, people's lifting from making these what would seem to be rabbit hole type situations. And that's more, I just like to think about things before I lift and do things, because I feel like if I maximize it, then it just makes it all the better, right? That's just kind of how all that kind of came about.
Okay.
So
yeah. All right. So I guess we have these set of questions now.
Okay.
And the first one is, what do you feel like the difference between elite and beginners are, or like intermediate advanced with their training?
Yeah. So traditionally, beginner, intermediate, elite usually defines how strong someone is. There's like this representation where the elite people are usually the strongest and the beginners are usually the weakest. Whereas, like we were speaking before, a little bit before this, that there are beginners that have more, I guess, problematic things than, say, elite strength people. And so really the definition of what beginner versus elite has to be established first. So what would we define as beginners, elites, and things like that? Where do we set the bounds for this?
With beginners, I used to think it was more so like purely strength.
Right.
But I think it's more so training age.
Exactly.
Now.
So
it's transition.
But do you believe that somebody can become a beginner or be a beginner even after 3 years? Like even if their training age can be old, but their training maturity can be really young.
They could be in an instance where maybe they're just in the middle of nowhere, and because we're all in Texas, which has a lot of powerlifting going on, and there's a pretty good chance you could find someone with a good skill set as a coach. But if someone's in a like completely remote area on the other side of the country, then there just might not be any coaches there who have similar foundations, or it might be a lot more quote unquote old school.
Yeah.
But you could get someone who's been doing all this old school stuff for like 3 to 5 years, and maybe they're not doing too well. But then when they transition to something new, they can make the beginner gains once again.
So they became a beginner.
So yeah, it's like it's so beginner and elite is very, very different than just strength wise. And there's also nowadays a lot of up and coming team lifters who you would think would be beginner, but then within a year or two, it's like 500 dots. It's like, holy cow, it only took you like a year or two to get there. That's pretty.
So is that person still a beginner? That's the question, right? That would be right.
I guess we can go into that. Yeah.
But that's right. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
The question is more so like the differences between the two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we're just saying differences right now.
Yeah. So I guess if we look at the question a little bit more, difference between elite, beginners.
This one's pretty broad.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's more just because we have to define elite, beginners, and I think the biggest thing that I guess if elite is defined as somebody that has like a big training maturity, I think the biggest difference is the elite people usually have found things that sort of work for them. But more than anything, they've found things that definitely don't work. Because the only difference between a beginner and somebody that's been doing it for a while is their experiences. So say you find a really good coach. He gets you the perfect golden microcycle and you run it good for like 3 years. Your training maturity technically still isn't super old if you think about it, because you only know one thing that kind of works for you. And then you end up almost feeling like you're elite in training age, when in reality, you've only tried one thing and it happens to be working really well.
I feel like I've seen this too with like coaches who are up and coming, because like you'll see like, oh, I understand my own training so well, my own system.
Yes.
But then they try to like teach their new client this technique or like use the same tools. It's just not working.
Yep. And we've done podcasts over this before where a system is only defined, like the person is the system, not the system that you have. The best thing to do is to look at the person as the system and then saying, okay, from this person, what system works under them, instead of from the coach's perspective, what system as a coach I have like impresses upon this person. And the reason why, because I had a conversation with somebody a few weeks ago, literally about this exact thing, is systems are basically prevalent in powerlifting because the average age of powerlifter is 3 years or less. So what happens is a coach can have one system, another coach can have another system, but the majority of people are inside of this like 3-year scope. So you can almost have a system and it would work because the scope is bigger for that group of people that you're appealing to. You're appealing to people that have more available things that might work for them. So therefore, systemizing something starts to make a lot of sense, because it's like, oh, do I really need to individualize for this person in year one? Do I really need to do that? And that's why I think I see a bunch of coaches having systems, and they are also easier to manage. I will say that, because like, if you have a lot of lifters and they all have their own different system, then that requires more work on you as a coach. So that's another thing that almost tests your will as a coach to be, if you were trying to be out of the box a bit and really try and get every single person different, So that's just my observation that I've seen with a lot of, I guess, younger coaches. It's not that they're not thinking outside of the box. It's that the people that they're picking up, they can systemize them because they are so early in training age. The people that they're picking up are so early in training age. So if that makes some sense why there would be a system in that, right?
Yeah, right. Okay, so I guess an elite person for us would be someone who has like a high lifting maturity.
Yes.
And then also the ratio of how heavy they can lift kind of converge into like this one point.
Yes.
So then I guess what would be a beginner in your opinion? Just like
that's hard because and the reason why that's hard is because, for example, I've seen people that will literally be treading, like going at a snail's pace, either with one coach or in their own training or their self-training, and then they switch something up and then all of a sudden they're a beginner, or what feels like they're a beginner. They're just, everything is popping off, the technique, everything starts to flow, everything starts to look really good. And it's like, well, were you advanced for the last 2 years or were you a beginner for the first 2 years? Was I a beginner the whole time? Like where does beginning end and advance really begin? Because to me, if you're super advanced, that more so just tells me, like, if you tell me that you're advanced, all I hear is, oh, you have a certain thing that only works for you, that you think only works, but it's only based on your prescribed idea of what works at the moment. And that's due to mobility, programming constraints, This golden micro that we've been talking about for a little bit has caused some of this commotion between sticking to what works versus finding something new. Like, there's a lot of, I guess, there's a lot of buy-in on that. Just because progress slows down, it means that you're advanced. When in reality, like, if there's a weak point, then there's something to work on. If there's something to work on, then something can actually change really quickly. And most people that believe that they're in an advanced stage, I think that they're in still a beginner stage, yet they just have not found the thing that puts them into more oh, wow, there's still progress here. Because there very well could be. You just need to find what that thing is. So.
Okay. So, like, I guess in the sense, too, like, someone could think they're advanced.
Yes.
But then, like, once they find something, it could just reset them back to the beginner, and then their gains just skyrocket again.
Very well could.
Yeah. And I guess, like, an easy example is I see in the gym are people who don't quite understand how to get into a good position in sumo.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, it just unlocks their deadlift again. Like, they think they're capped out at, whatever weight they are at. But, just getting into a better position and doing slack pull wedge properly.
Yeah, whole thing. Yeah, technique is actually one of the biggest parts of this thing that I'm talking about. If you improve your technique, things can actually change really, really fast. And that's why, the equipment and the, all these, me thinking outside of the box on the podcast, stuff like that. That's why that stuff occurs, is because that is the difference between making good progress and not making so good progress, is that willingness to think outside the box, that willingness to say, wow, my wedge looks like this. I think it looks good, but maybe it could be better. So that's where that comes from. It's not even rabbit holing. We're just trying to get better around here.
Right.
And I don't build muscle fast enough, so we need to figure out something else. Like that's all that is. So,
more hack squat PRs.
Yes, the hack squat, which I can explain, by the way. The hack squat, actually, in my own training, my squat was dead stuck for years, barring an injury, obviously, but also as well, my squat was already kind of stuck even before that. And come to find out, if you stand wide and you sit back in the squat, you obviously lack quads. You obviously lack legs. So what happened was my movement got worse and worse as I kept sitting back further and further. Not only was I not hitting PRs anymore, I was actually degrading my movement pattern. So the hack squat came about in more of a discussion that I had with an athlete. And I was like, man, that actually sounds like something I need to do. Like, it was a very aha moment I had. And, I started, I bought a hack squat for the gym and I made sure to buy a really good one. And, started using it. Come to find out, I'm really not strong with my legs. My quads are just so weak. I had trouble even just doing the trolley. Like, even just no weight on it was difficult for me to do because I had lost access to getting my knees forward. I had lost all this because I just sit back on everything. Even my deadlift, I'm sitting back and opening up. It's like I lost that forwardness in my legs. So the hack squat very quickly taught me certain things. And then all of a sudden, squatting becomes easy to do. And I'm like, well, why hadn't I done this like 3 years ago? But that's what happens whenever it's like, that's why we discuss things. That's why we have, these conversations to try and cutting edge things, because we're getting a lot more of it now, but we just did not have that much of it back then. Like, not as much as we thought. So,
and with the person that you were talking to, would you consider them on the beginner to elite stage? Like, where would you consider them?
Oh, she was somewhere in the middle, I would say. Okay. Like, she was further along than most for her weight class. Training age is high. Training age was, I think, 4 or 5 years already. And she also squats wide. We have like a similar problem. And then she started doing a hack squat. She was like, yeah, the hack squat just helps me do this. And I'm like, it does, doesn't it? It does, doesn't it? And I was like, great. So, it can happen in discussions really quickly where you'll be talking to somebody and realize that you're talking about their situation, but you might be talking about your situation. And it was just an aha. I call it aha moments. Those are just moments where you put a few things together after a conversation from somebody, and it really makes a big difference. So, that's what kind of occurred. And I started to make what I think to be beginner gains on my squat, because I started just hitting squat PRs every block, like every single block. If I PR'd my hack squat, I was going to PR my squat, like hands down, and it just became easy. So it became just very, it became very obvious to me what it was, because you start doing it and then you start feeling how a squat is supposed to feel. And it's, I don't know. Hindsight, I feel super dumb, but like, that's kind of just how that works. Like you have the realizations and then you put it into practice, and then you're laughing at yourself, even though you made no progress on your squat in a few years because of it. It's like, man, if I would have had this conversation a little earlier, I might have avoided a whole hip injury, and I would have avoided a lot of things. We'll put it that way. So I don't know. That's what a lot of that is about. But
oh my gosh.
So I became a beginner myself on squat, even in just the last few months. Same thing with deadlift. So I think there's a point where, even as advanced as you are, there has to be discussion, a high level discussion where, like, and it doesn't even have to be a high level discussion. Just talk to people that think, or find a mentor, or find somebody that you can talk to. You'd be very surprised what you will learn in no time at all. It's pretty crazy. So, yep.
And some of these issues are the same from beginner to elite.
Yes.
Like your issue with this person's issue is very, very similar.
I made technically a very beginner mistake. Like if you think about it, it's very beginner mistake. Wow, your legs are lacking.
What were you doing before then for accessories?
Well, I was squatting, and then most of my accessories were still built into this posterior chain.
Yeah.
So like I was buying, because there's a concept. Mm-hmm. You buy into your strengths, or you work on your weak points. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how you pick exercises. You pick exercises on whether or not you're going to buy in to what you're good at, or you're going to work on what you're weak at. At the time, the concept that had helped, by the way, because I did get good at squatting before things stopped working. What helped was buying into what I was good at. So I kept buying what it was good at, even after the price had dipped. We'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. Like I bought a falling stock and saw it falling and was like, great, I guess
it's gonna go up, bro.
Yeah, it will go up eventually, right? That's exactly how I thought about it. That's kind of how that went. So eventually I had to just realize that the stock had fallen enough. Injury kind of caused that, just self-reflection, just paying attention to myself a little more over time. That's what caused that. And then you have a conversation that changes things. Wow, okay, I should have thought of that. Let's do this now. Switch some gears up. All of a sudden, things moving again. So anybody that's listening, this doesn't mean next week do something crazy. What this means is
do a hack squat.
Yeah, it's like everyone's just gonna start hack squatting now. That's the new Chance Mitchell's secret exercise. Like the other thing too is I was belt squatting. That's one of the accessories that bought into what I was doing, because with the belt squat, you can sit
squatting
back.
in like the same pattern. Yeah.
Because the belt squat, you can sit back.
The hack squat.
So that's buying into it. Yeah. So I was buying into what I was good at and not working on the weak point. The weak point finally got big enough. And then as for what we've been talking about, bottlenecks with the previous podcast that we just released, the bottleneck was massive. It was so big that I started hack squatting and couldn't do the trolley. Like, that's pretty bad. So, but working on it changed everything. So,
you still got pretty strong with
absolutely. Yeah. Buying into your strengths gets you strong, by the way. It does. It's just, there's a point where when you get stuck, buying doesn't help at all. You need to buy a different stock. You need to buy something else that might be emerging or something like that, So, and that's how it goes. I sold the belt squat and I bought the hack squat. That's how that works. Like, that's what I decided to do. I still belt squat, but I keep it on a very specific day for a specific thing, and I don't go heavy enough where I sit back in it. So I'm doing it truly how it should be, pushing the knees as hard as I can forward. I'm doing it for what I need it to be. And that's the thing about the hack squat, not to go on a rant about the hack squat, by the way. You can do that thing wrong. You really can. Like you can really, really just keep buying into the wrong thing, or you can start causing issues, anything from knee pain to hip pain from a belt squat. And I'm just saying. So yeah, if y'all have any questions about that, feel free to message me. But yeah.
But an issue like this too is there might be a beginner out there with not a lot of leg muscle, or just not a lot of legs.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, you need to do a hack squat to get more legs.
Yeah.
And then with you, it's kind of like still the same thing. You need to do a hack squat to get more legs.
Yep.
On the squat.
Exactly. The thing is, I started with a big sports background. So what happened was I already had some leg muscle built up. And then what happened was I started squatting, and the specificity skill of squatting, I just kept feeding on getting better at squatting just by squatting. And that's what really helped me helped me make progress for many, many years. But eventually I hit a size gap where the quads aren't big enough anymore. Like my glutes are maxed out. My quads are not maxed out. And all of a sudden I'm sitting back and everything because quads don't want to act. My glutes want to act. Like it makes sense why all of this occurred. So now we're back to, it doesn't mean I need to hit the hack squat 1,000,000 times. It means that I'm still going to keep squatting. I just have now more devoted time into working on that big bottleneck that's there. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, there's a lot there. I feel like I could go on forever, honestly, about some of that.
Okay. I guess we covered a little bit about this, but did you want to ask this, or should we?
I think we covered it enough. It was mainly just like the same issue.
Yeah, right.
Well,
it was like an example of the same.
To answer the first bullet point, there's no beginner or elite. There's really just what's the thing you need to work on and what's not. Like, what have you missed out on?
When I first started coaching, I used to think it was like beginner, easier to coach because there's the whole framework thing you were saying earlier, and then advanced is not necessarily harder to coach, but like less things that work. But there can very well be that with like all kinds of people.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is, as coaches, because we're all coaches, when you onboard somebody, you can't just flip the boat upside down. You have to learn what works for the person. You have to buy some of that. You have to buy into what works for them to understand it. And then you have to say, okay, from given this, now what's missing? Or now what's next? What do we do next with given this? So that's something that's really important, I would say.
Yeah. And I guess to build on what you're saying too as well, I think there was a surprising amount of people who I onboarded who I assumed like, oh, you're this strength level, you've been lifting for this long.
Oh yeah.
And then, their accessories, like they might be tackling it the right way. Mm-hmm. But then when I actually go see them do it, it's like, oh, actually, like you never really focused your attention on this. So in that sense, they're like beginner bodybuilders. That's what it felt like. So I guess like there's so much nuance to what beginner/intermediate can be, like you're saying. Mm-hmm. So I guess, do you find yourself using like similar tools when someone becomes more advanced or efficient, or how much do your tools change, I guess, depending on...
is it tool sets like exercise selection or programming?
More so on the programming side, I guess.
Not really. What I will say is like I've seen some like more advanced or more. I've seen those people tolerate or need to start to tolerate more, and I've seen some people where they start lifting so much weight that they start needing to tolerate less. Otherwise, like things don't continue on. And that just is very individual, I would say. So are the tools the same? I guess not really. Like it's just very dependent on the case, I would say. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can narrow the question down a little bit so I don't say it depends, because most questions, it depends, by the way.
Yeah. I guess like maybe the people watching, they might think their scope of what more advanced people are doing are like more advanced things.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And then
the more complicated thing is the better one.
Yeah, right.
That's crazy. Dude, the strongest people, I'll tell all the listeners right now, the strongest people do the simplest things. Literally, and usually you will find the hard stuck intermediates doing the more complicated things than the really, really strong, I guess, elite level, whatever you want to view as elite level lifters doing. They don't do advanced things or more complicated things would be, I guess, the right verbiage for that. Harder doesn't mean better. Like sometimes you just need to do something simple better. And that's what powerlifting is, doing something simple better. And anytime it gets really complicated, you'll get stuck for a while because complicated doesn't move good. You have to turn the thing that's complicated simple in order to start moving it good again. So, and that's really the job of a coach, honestly. Like a lifter can do it too, but the coach's job is to take complicated things and make it simple and digestible for the lifter to do. If it doesn't seem simple to the lifter, then you're in trouble because then the lifter is going to think it's complicated. The lifter is going to get in his head.
Complicated.
Exactly.
Because it's complicated.
Exactly. So, if it's something's complicated, that's already how you know that's not, quite the answer. Like you have to digest the complicated information into simple information and then step by step go through the process. So,
okay.
Do you feel like it gets harder between, or what does harder mean? That training gets harder between beginner and then as one becomes more elite?
Yeah, it gets harder. Absolutely. And this goes into obviously training age, training personality, past personality. There's actually a lot that goes into it that's more psychological, I would say, on that front, because like I've seen some people as they get stronger, they sort of get scared of a weight, or they start to like shy away from things that they didn't shy away from before. It's like for some odd reason squatting 365 wasn't a problem, but now 500 scares you or something. Like there are definitely what I call blocks that the athlete themselves have to figure out on their own. And that's something that you can't coach. That's something that is very athlete driven. We used to have this saying, like it's probably like 10 years ago. We were like, yeah, all the people that are the strongest are the craziest, because they know how to block out some like that mental fear or whatever. They know how to just be very like out of it whenever it's time to push harder or things like that. They have kind of an it factor that's almost innate, but sometimes it can be trained. So, and that's why usually lifter age ties to being good at something, because you kind of get desensitized to what would normally be fearful or feared upon from a earlier lifter. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
That's a good take. I think we talked a little bit about this before, but you know how like the marathon in like under 3 hours or something, and then once it's broken,
the 4 minute mile.
The 4 minute mile, and then like once that barrier is broken, it unlocks the mental capacity for other lifters to do it.
Yeah, it's because someone else has done it, now it's possible.
Yeah, right.
Like type of thing. Whereas if it hasn't been done, or it's like hasn't been done by many people, then that makes it be perceived as more difficult, I guess.
Yeah, and then kind of to get on top of what you're saying too, it's like as you become more mature lifter, there's new things that you're realizing that you have to confront before you can make it to the next level.
Yep, literally.
So, yeah. Okay.
Some of those things that you have to confront, they pop up in the early training age.
Oh yeah.
/ just like not
usually more early
as strong.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And that was something that really was surprising when I would take on some of these beginners. I was like, no big deal, we got this. And then this issue pops up, and I'm like, holy cow, this is a complicated issue. What the heck? And it's just a whole interesting thing with how natural someone can be at lifting as well. And I guess hard, that ties in with like mindset and genetics.
It's hard to tell somebody to lock in. Like, it's like, because for me, that I think as a coach, one of the things that I have the most trouble with, I think, is with telling athletes to just lift harder, like try harder, because like I always tried really hard in my training, so I never really accounted for trying harder being something to teach, because come to find out, there are people that if they in fact lock in harder, that actually makes all the difference in everything. And some people do in fact try harder than others, not even on purpose, and that's something that is developed if you don't have it, or if you've played sports for a while, usually it's already developed. And that's why some people do claim that being in a previous sport in the past helps you be good at powerlifting, when in fact it just helps you with some aspects of powerlifting, the mental aspect being some of that, the work hard, the push through pain, the push through whatever you want to call it, whatever cliche terms you want to say for try harder, lock in, whatever. So those terms are usually less prevalent in regular sports, because in regular sports, that's the minimum. The minimum is showing up. The minimum is the grit. The minimum is like those things. So that's the best way for me to put it, I'd say.
And usually for a lot of athletes in sports or whatever, like collegiate level or even like varsity in high school, the lifting is the training for whatever sport that they're doing too. Yep. So like
now we're trying to min-max all the lifting.
Right. Min-max the lifting.
Okay. So you kind of answered this a little bit before, but like, do things matter more as one becomes more advanced, or does it remain the same comparatively? So like variables, program, accessories.
Oh, okay. I mean, we're pretty open-ended with some of the other stuff, but I think as you get more advanced, truly like stuff gets harder to do, the lifts that you're lifting, not very many people have done before, do things start to matter more? 100% they do. Like, I think that if you don't go about it like it matters more, then you're going to have a lot of trouble doing things that people haven't done. So like that's kind of how that works.
Okay. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to ask about beginner/intermediate?
I think that's about it. I think that was a good comment.
All right. So, go ahead.
Yeah, this one's something we've talked about a lot, but seeing any program as being able to work. And sometimes we'll talk about our athletes, and it's like we can make a certain change on the program, but then there's this other maybe technical issue that keeps popping up. So it's like, should we even make the change on the program, or should we just get their tech to being a lot better, and then this program will work as a result of that?
Well, they tie into each other. So, and that's something that I think nobody has talked about yet, by the way, yet should be very obvious to say. Like, the program also creates the technique, right? For example, say I program high rep deadlifts. Yeah, the weight's going to be lighter. I'm going to inherently get better at repping out lighter weights by repping out lighter weights. So what's going to happen is I'm going to end up building, especially a sumo deadlift, I'm going to end up building my hips and my legs a lot more than my back with high rep deadlifts. I am creating my destiny in a way, right? So my technique, if I give someone high rep deadlifts, I know that since the weight is lighter, they're going to be able to execute it better. Whenever I know that they're going to be able to execute it better, they're quite literally going to start executing it better. So their form is going to clean up in a way that is reflective of the ranges that you give them. So the program actually can create the technique that you want the person to have, if that makes any sense. Whereas if I was to give someone heavy triples, yeah, you're just going to be looking at a little bit more back heavy. It's going to look a little more back heavy, and it's going to look, just a little more bent over, a little less upright. Like that's what's going to happen if you do threes often enough. Like that's what you're going to start to get. You're going to start to get more compensations. Compensations typically being in the back whenever something is heavy, as we know. So the program can create the form that you see. So sometimes if I want to change someone's form, I don't necessarily even tell them what to do. Sometimes I just change the program and their form actually starts to look better as a result of proper rep ranges, proper fatigue management so that your back isn't lit, proper pacing in the program. I'm saying the program can actually make technique look better. Like I've had, and this happens pretty often where I'll onboard an athlete and say, hey, I don't want to touch any kind of technique right now because I need to see what the program actually does to your technique. Because if the program has changes from what you used to do, your technique might actually also change along with that. So we give it maybe a few weeks to see. I call it letting the program settle. We let the program settle. We let the data, we let the fatigue read in on your body, and then we see what your lifts start to look like as a result. Take, for example, 2 days a week or 2 days apart on deadlift. Say I deadlift Monday and Thursday. If I stretch it to Monday and Friday, I guarantee you your form is going to look completely different on that Friday than it would at the Thursday. Like we know this. We know kind of that there is a programming aspect to technique. So I'm just saying, I want to make sure that they're put together in sorts like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, let's say, I guess you kind of answered some of my next question.
Yeah.
But like, do you find that lifters should maybe look towards other avenues before concluding like, hey, maybe we should make the programming adjustment, then like adjusting their technique or whatever? Or let's say the program should work, right? But they might be like pacing things incorrectly.
Yes.
How should like a lifter navigate like this knowledge, I guess?
Yes. So the program, like, okay, how about this? I'll frame it this way. Say the program worked for 4 blocks straight, right? Little to no changes, program works for 4 blocks straight. And then all of a sudden something happens. Do I lean on the program being the thing? No, not really. But because it had been working 4 times before that, it has been proven to work to a certain point. So I have reason to believe that the program is still okay. That being said, if I have a program where everything goes well except for deadlifts, or say I have a program where everything goes good except for every time it does this, and I keep seeing a pattern of over and over again that happens, would I lean on technique when the program keeps producing the same certain result? Then no, that would be the program. See, so can we use technique to brush off a programming inconsistency? Yes. Does that happen super often? No, just more because a lot of people don't find that answer that easily. Can they? Yes. I've seen it happen before. I tend to not lean on the programming being the first issue. But that's my bias because typically the programs that I write do work for quite a long time before they don't. That's why my bias is the way it is because the program had been proven to work. If the program hadn't been proven to work, I am very quick with making programming changes. It's actually alarming how quickly I will make a change that I've been staring at for a while. And I'm like, man, I've been wanting to move these percentages for this down, or I've been wanting to go into a lower rep range on this for a while. Like I've been leaning towards that for a little bit and it's been okay until now. It's like, okay, no, I'm changing the number. It's like, I'm just going to change it. This has been on my brain for a little bit. And, you know, the way that I look at a lot of that stuff, I look at training progression, training momentum as kind of like a stock. If I notice the stock is rising, then yeah, let's keep going. Let's have fun with it. But if I see the stock start to flatten out, then I start really staring at it because it starts to flatten out. And I'm like, all right, do I need to buy? Do I need to sell? Like, what do I need to do right now to get this thing to start kind of doing this? So we start checking things. We start checking anything from an external to a technique to are my legs getting small? Probably should have done that. To like what do I need to start doing? And real quickly here. I don't like buying into the fact that things can stay stagnant for a really long time. I do buy into the fact that things do slow down. I do buy into the fact that as we get stronger, there is a mental adaptation that needs to take place, and there's a physical adaptation that needs to take place. Whenever you hit a big weight for the first time, you're not necessarily that strong. Like, as weird as that sounds, because that strength was produced by one go at a training, and you could have had one good training go and hit that one up there. It's like you're that strong whenever you start hitting that consistently. And so that's why whenever you get newfound progress or newfound things, you have to let the training itself settle, or else you don't really have it. You had what we call a bright moment, a hot flash, like a peaked out experience of something. And I've seen a lot of lifters, what they do is they have this hot flash experience, and then their training starts to not reflect that hot flash experience. They start getting frantic just because they're not hot flashing 50 times. Nobody can hot flash 50 times. So there has to be some consistency. There has to be some paying attention of sorts to this thing here. Yeah.
Okay. That was a good answer.
Okay.
I'm very long-winded. Sorry, guys.
All right. You keep on going.
All right.
I guess a little bit more about the programming side of it. What about when there's a certain issue and it's just like, hey, I don't think like any programming change will fix said issue. I don't know about any programming change. It's kind of a strong word, but average programming change will fix said issue.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The case of the rounded back deadlift. Yeah, man, I'm going to round my back until the thing goes out, and now I'm deadlifting 500. Everyone gets stuck at 500 with rounded back, by the way. Rounded back conventional, everyone gets stuck at 500, and you can't round your back anymore past the point. You got to build something else. You got to do something else. It's like, is there a program out there that gets me to round my back less? I don't know. Maybe something needs to change, right? So yeah, I think that you're right that, is there a point where the program is a program, and I've said this before, a program is just one piece, albeit it can be a pretty big piece. Some coaches will argue it is 80% of the piece, and I've come to find out that the program can be 80% of the piece for one athlete, and it could be only 50% of the piece for another athlete. I've seen some people that are amazing athletes take what is on paper probably the ugliest program I've ever seen in my life and make really good out of it, almost to the point where I look at it and I'm like, wow, this is amazing that this works. I guess I won't change it because it works. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But of course, like the stock, I will be watching it because I assume that it will die. Because, there's a point where if you haven't seen something before, it's going to fall eventually or something like that. So then you'll just be paying attention to it. So there is a time and a place is what I'm saying. And rounding your back on a deadlift, overextending your squat. You've seen the classic shoulder flare on bench, or the lack of setting up, or the really frantic shoulder pressing type motion that some of these lifters keep doing. Is you can just tell that no program is going to fix this this form. And usually you want to catch people before they get too deep into that. And then you just have to tell the athlete to just trust you at a point. It's like, hey man, like, I know you feel strong. Like I get that. And I know that, pulling a little bit more slack out of the bar and just staying a bit more static with your back, not letting it flex over to fly it off the ground. Like, I know that that's not going to feel that good for who knows, maybe even a block or two long, maybe even longer. We don't know. Like, maybe your back really is that strong. It just is what it is, but it's not sustainable. It's like, do you want to keep the needle moving, or do you just like the number that you're at? Like, is the ego really that big? Come to find out, by the way, for some lifters it is. I've had some lifters just straight up cool with having bad form. Like, all right, bro. Like, if you want to blow the ship up, that's you, and that's your decision. That is not my decision. But I warned you. Like, I told you, this is probably not going to work. Fine, cool. We'll keep running it. We'll keep it going. And then whenever the ship decides to sail, yeah, man, I'll help you anchor it down and reel the boat back in and figure that out. If you want to do that, then that's fine. So, and that's a discussion that you have with your athlete. Like, you tell them, hey, this looks like this, by the way. Is that something that you're happy with? Same thing, overshooting on week 3. Where do we go for week 4? Like, it's like, I don't know. I really wanted to pull this on week 3 though. All right, cool. We'll see what happens next week. It's like, I can't make the decision for you. Like, and that's something that you end up having to discuss with your athlete, what moves you want to make. And the more mature of an athlete you have and the more advanced of an athlete you have, you get to have those discussions. And those discussions are actually some of my favorite parts of coaching, because I've seen athletes make some very interesting decisions. Some decisions that I'm like, man, I wouldn't do that. They're like, watch, it'll work. I'm like, okay, I'll bet. Like, we'll see if it works. And they make it work. Great. So some really good things come from just having good discussion, with athletes. Obviously not having a lot of those discussions with any super new athletes that aren't as versed in things. It's like, for those athletes, usually I will have to say, hey, this is sort of how you have to do it. It's like, because this is at least going to get you somewhere like this. Whereas the way that you're doing it now, that's going to end us really badly. Like, so you might as well just do this. Turns into more discussion bases as you get a bit more further in. So.
Okay. I want to go back for a second. You said something like you've seen some really, really good athletes run really bad programs.
Yes.
But still make the most of it and still make really good progress.
Absolutely.
What are some common traits you see with those people where they're still able to make very good progress with a program that might not be as optimal for their needs?
Huge buy-in, sometimes a very big self-belief in themselves. And then there's always something in the program that maybe I don't see that works, that is making it work. That is definitely part of it, is because...
The one secret exercise.
Yeah, dude, it could be. Because that's what it comes down to, is like, just because my perspective, I think something looks bad, doesn't mean that it's bad. Athletes that, like, essentially, there's something in the program that maybe I don't understand that is working, that is working. And that can happen because of the fact that, one, no coach is all-knowing, and I'm only limited to what I know, right? It could be big, it could be small, it could be whatever, but that's my biggest thing for why I think that as a coach, if you see something that's working well for somebody, changing it is a risk. Like, that's, and I would rather keep it a certain way and then just watch and see what happens and learn from kind of this specific instance as to why this works for this person. It's almost like you're the person's biggest fan and you just want to see the thing work. You're not really bought in with wanting to show them something new. You just want to see how well and why something works really well for someone else. I've seen this happen where a lifter will go somewhere and get bought in on a different system, and the whole thing blows up, even though the system might even be good. I've seen some really good lifters go to some coaches, and I know for a fact that those coaches are good. And it's like, why is that happening to them? But it's because there's something that they had in the program before that was not in there after. There was some combination that was missed out on. And then there turns into discrepancy. So I've seen that happen more often than I really want to admit that I've seen it happen. But that's why a lot of people are very bought in on, if something works, keep it, or type of thought process. So
how often do you see something like a combination
like combination of what?
Whether it's accessories or just a combination of, hey, with what we're doing on this day works really well with this other pairing. Like maybe some people are good at like squatting and deadlifting on the same day, right? That's a combination.
Oh, combos. Yeah. I mean, that happens more often than you think. Like if you look at a lot of the programs that we write, they're combos. Like they're just like, if you like, those Street Fighter games where you put in a combo and it creates like this super cool move. It's
it's very powerful.
Yeah, but it's super powerful. Yeah. But there are, like as we know, there are combos that tend to be better than other combos, right? Squatting 3 days in a row. Not the best combo. We know that. We just know. But then there's some people that squat 3 days in a row and it works really well. Benching 4 days in a row. I don't know a ton of people that do that. But there are some people that bench a lot, come to find out they're benching 4 days in a row. It's their combo. There's a combo of sorts. So, and typically, since I know a lot of the more common combos, what happens is whenever I see something working really well for somebody, and it's not one of the combos that I am used to seeing, that sends alarm bells like crazy. Because I'm like, okay, this combo is not something I've ever seen, but that makes me not want to change it, if that makes any sense, because it's a special combo that I haven't seen before, right? Whereas we know with some of the more common combos, the people that subscribe to more common things, they can work with other common things, like we said, one system bought into one system can work with the other system. There are certain common combos that people have where, if you use this combo probably also works. Whereas if you have a specific combo, it's like, man, maybe if we move this around, we're going to feel really bad in 2 weeks, type of thing.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what you said with the athlete being the system too.
Yes.
Because if you do notice something that's higher specificity, like you said, there's a higher chance that the normal combo is just not going to do anything.
Yeah. And there's also a chance where you'll look at that combo and be like, wow, this looks very similar to this except for this. And then the thing is, my honest advice is if you see somebody with those kind of combos, just learn the combo instead of changing to the system that is more comfortable to you, and spend the extra time watching that combo, or even converse with somebody else, or converse with somebody that has been coaching or lifting for a long time. Maybe they've seen that combo before, because that's another thing. That's better to learn the combo or ask somebody about the combo than it is to switch the combo from that.
Do you find that more advanced lifters tend to want to try these like more complicated combos, or do you find it like an even mix of?
Nope.
An SBD day is like a combo.
Yeah, it is a combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that combo. Man, I get so fried from SBD day. Yeah.
It's a long day. I do SBD day, but it's all secondary stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a little more.
But that's a combo.
That's a combo.
Secondary SBD is a combo because it allows you to set up the rest of your week. It allows you to put the volume. It can front load all the volume so that then you can do primaries at the end of the week. Mm-hmm. So it's a setup that maximizes secondary to primary spacing.
Right.
Which we could do a whole podcast on peaking and why power bands tend to, peak you out twice a week or, things like that.
I guess on a personal note, what's the most complicated combo that you've had to run?
Oh man, I could go on forever. I have people running just the craziest combos even right now.
But it works. That's the important part.
Yeah, right.
It works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I had this one guy, and I doubt he's listening now, but if he does happen to listen, he'll know it's just him because he's the only one that I've ever done that for. I had one guy, he was lifting 6 days a week, but we had one exercise per day. And it's because he told me he only had an hour to an hour and a half to train, but he could train every day if needed. And so we ended up fitting everything into this program that was just 6 times a week. And it was basically like squatting, deadlifting, benching, squatting, like something like that. And this was, man, when did I coach him? I coached him almost 5 years ago, more than that. But I still remember that one like it was yesterday because it was so unique. There was the pattern had to be very, you had to basically be really smart with where you put things. And then the weeks would almost blend in together. And then getting it to peak, you had to look at it beyond a weekly schedule. You had to look at it as a 6-day schedule, and then you had to time it out to the meet. And then you had to taper it based on not the week. You had to taper it based on the time from the meet.
Yeah.
And I just wrote one for Dalton. They can ask. He might listen to this. Dalton Sprigga, Mr. Spriggs. He has a work project that has him on the oil rig or something out there, and he can only power lift twice a week.
Is that like in the ocean?
Something like that.
Oh my gosh!
And so apparently they have a gym on site, but it's chopped and But I have him basically doing a form of SBD twice a week, and then the rest of his week is push pull, some sort of thing. And I told him, I was like, we're just gonna write this based on pretending like those 2 days are like the primary days, and then everything else is like just priming it out. And yeah, so it's a fun experiment of sorts for, I think he said he was doing it for a month or two, something like that. Not too long, But the goal for that obviously is to maintain, and that's where a lot of these programs tend to occur, is whenever, or these type of things come about, is whenever someone has a specific thing that they're doing for a month, or they're trying to prepare for this for a month, or they go on vacation, or they, then you have to kind of switch gears on it and almost play salvage mode. But the way you play salvage mode is trying to make progress. So if you can make progress in salvage mode, then you might fall short and maintain, which I'm okay with, because that's the best case scenario when you change things. So, that's kind of my thought on that.
Okay. All right.
We can talk about more about the programming side of thing with variations and when to add that into the program. And what is your thought process behind either adding a variation in or using drills or cueing to fix a certain problem instead?
Man, this could be...
This is a whole podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole podcast very easily.
4 podcasts in one.
Man, if I could zoom out on it. Okay, I think... So there's adaptation to the goal. The goal obviously is squatting more, benching more, deadlifting more. There are people that adapt really well by just doing the lift itself. So the thing that provides the most stimulus is the lift itself, right? Mm-hmm. And then there are people that have, I guess you could call it a sticking point. I guess you could call it a movement issue. I guess you could call it a movement deficiency. I guess you could call it a quad weakness. You could call it whatever you want. The point is the bar isn't consistent, right? It's not consistent enough to continue making progress just with the specific movement itself. So sometimes what you will do is, instead of continuing to hit your head against the wall and just sticking out of the hole on the squat, you build your quads to start smoking it out of the hole. And we're talking about buying into strengths versus addressing weak points again. So you have to make a judgment call on whether or not you believe that the person can get through something specifically, or if you believe that they can move better, quicker with a variation. Because a variation does not necessarily demand and or guarantee that what it's supposed to work on is going to work. What I've seen lately is I've seen a lot of people do so much specificity that when a variation is added, they get something out of it because they're just locking in more. I've seen just in the aspect of, wow, David, you switched competition bench to anything, a Spoto, a soft shirt press, a
coin press,
a tempo on the way down to the pin. Like, even the novelty of that creates more neural engagement. It basically makes you lock in more. Am I saying that variations are only because of that? No, I'm not at all. I'm just saying that regardless of application or not, I've seen people apply variations not even the right way, but they work because there is something novel and something new that's been put in the program. So sometimes when a program has stayed the same for a while, sometimes what I will do is I will change the exercise simply because it wakes the person up. You'd be surprised how many people are more asleep in their training than you think. And if the training program's been the same for a while, then they're more or less going to be somewhat asleep. That is, unless you have somebody that is extremely advanced and or extremely mentally disciplined and or extremely has some mental thing where they can really lock in. There's going to be a time and a place where that people are not going to be as locked in as you think, and changing the exercises can help them wake up a bit. That's just one aspect of it. I know that that's not what the question says. That's a side bit to it, but can variations help with technique? Yes. The short answer is yes. If attributed correctly, the answer is yes. For the vast majority of people. But will I be more willing to add a variation over, say, fixing technique? If I think I can fix your technique without a variation, I'm probably going to fix the technique without the variation. Because many issues and this is what a lot of coaches will do and a lot of athletes will do. What they will do is they will misattribute a bad position for a weakness. Say I have problems at lockout on a deadlift. Same case as always. Oh, fix the lockout. No, maybe it's a starting position issue. Everybody says, that's just the age-old conversation when something like this picks up. If I'm sticking at the lockout, do I fix the lockout or do I fix the starting position, right? At the end of the day, maybe all I need to do is not even fix the starting position with the pause deadlift, or not even fix the lockout with a rack pull or some kind of 45 hyper or something. Maybe all I need to do is ask the person how they're pulling it off the ground. You have a 2-minute conversation with somebody, come to find out all they're doing is ripping it off the ground. And it's okay, that answers everything, because now all we have to do is just pull it correctly. And are we stuck at the bottom? No. Are we stuck at the top? No. All of a sudden we're back to the way that we were supposed to be. So I tend to lean on just being very fixing the understanding of the lift first, executing the lift to the best of that ability, then seeing what sticks. Because then if I have a true weakness in a point, or if I have a true pattern, same thing with my squat, sitting back, sitting back, sitting back. That's the only way I can do it. That's the only way I can do it. David, go into your legs, go into your legs. I'm trying, I can't. See, then I need the variation. Then I need the knees forward hack squat. Then I need the thing to improve it. Because I'm trying to improve it, I can't. That makes sense to do. So, yeah, that's like, I'm just saying, like, there's other things at play as well. We can talk about load management. We can talk about a million things that go into this, because a program as well can also be the reason why it seems like you're getting stuck on something. The weight feels heavy on my back. Oh, do you need to be primed, or do you need more work? Are you fatigued enough? Like, we can go at it many different ways. So,
okay,
awesome.
I think you kind of answered mine a little bit.
Yeah.
So, zeros.
Just like using variations to mostly fix issues with technique, or you kind of use it for like managing load and other things.
Yeah. But the thing is, you can use a variation to also manage load, but you could also manage the load by managing the load,
right? Like just
so like
yeah.
It's just funny because I do have one athlete, actually, I will say, with this case, where I would keep a secondary day. With this guy specifically, I straight up, it says RP5. I keep it an RP5 the whole block, and this guy manages to get to an 8 by the end of the block on that day.
He's trying hard.
He's not managing the load no matter what I do. And it didn't change until I switched to pauses and until I raised the rep count. So I made it impossible for him to like really mess up the load, if that makes any sense. Like, so there are cases where some people just, it's like, okay, wow, you can't manage the load even if I tell you you're supposed to manage the load. And then now you're complaining that something hurts because you didn't manage the load. All right, we're going to do this a different way. We're going to do it where I'm 2 steps away from just giving you a number. We're just going to do that number. Which brings me to another point. I don't like giving a straight number for something, because I believe that it can actually jog your potential progress past a point. It can actually keep you from doing the most that you can in a block, but it does require some responsibility, I will say, which, hey, some people prove that they can't do that. So sometimes you got to make changes based on that. Does it happen all the time? No. So,
okay.
Yep.
I've had this one guy I've thought about a lot lately, but his squat, like I had a conversation with him, and I was like, hey, this is kind of how I want you to run it, week 1 through 4, and weight wise, this is around what I want you to do, but ultimately I want you to pick the numbers.
Yep.
And the first couple blocks he did it, and it was fine. He was making progress. And then the next couple blocks, he was running week 1 like a week 2.5, and it was a very, very heavy squat. But then he would go up like 10, 15 pounds, and it'd still look like a heavy squat on week 2. And I'm like, man, I don't know if we're surviving on week 4, but let's see what happens.
Yep.
But then he kept surviving.
Yep.
And he just kept going.
Impressive.
And then he made a ton of progress.
Impressive.
And I'm like, bro, I would have not have written that down, but it ended up working out. And
that's why you play the game instead of buying into what you think works. You got to let him play the game. Like which is what we said earlier. If you see something that doesn't necessarily or shouldn't work, you still got to let it play through, because it could work. Like, same thing with this guy with the secondary day. He actually made the thing work super well for like 5 or 6 blocks. He just kept on hitting PRs. And then eventually it stopped, and eventually overshooting that day started making something hurt. So, but that came after a bunch of PRs. So like, it's like,
good trade-off.
Yes, we play. I tell people all the time, play the game, man. Play the game, but know the game and know the rules of the game that you're playing, because then you can know kind of how to play it as good as you can. We'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. So,
with variations, if you're on the fence about adding a certain variation, for you, what is the main decision factor with that? To be like, hey, this isn't working technique wise, or like, hey, I just think this variation would be really good. Like, what's the ultimate decision maker?
Oh, I mean, it would be first and foremost, how much load, and how much am I changing the load in a certain spot? That would be the first thing, because
some variations you like have to go really light on.
Yes. And but that can be bad.
Yeah.
Say somebody's secondary day, they're used to loading it hard enough to make their primary day feel good. And then you slow the thing down, all of a sudden they're loading...
It's like 5-second tempo.
Yeah. Say they're loading 50 pounds less than they should. All of a sudden you get a discrepancy in actual load lifted across the week. Your tonnage goes down, and then all of a sudden you're, primary day feels bad. What is going on? And it's just,
that's exactly what they sound like.
Yes, I know how it sounds because I'm used to hearing it. And then I go in there and I look at it and I'm like, well, obviously it's just this, because loading so much less on this day. And so I'm very careful with the variations, because there is, with some people's load management, to make their primary day feel strong, a certain amount of weight or a certain amount of difficulty associated with a certain speed has to occur, right? And I'm throwing in speed in there because now everybody is doing these velocity trackers. And at first I thought they were the dumbest thing in the world, but obviously as I started thinking about it, the velocity stuff is actually pretty smart, because sometimes it's not necessarily about the load you're lifting. Sometimes it's how much you're lifting, but how fast, right? Because say I'm on week 3, I can move somewhat slow, because at the end of the day, I have next week, and that's going to be even slower, and that's it. But say I start a week 1 and I get the load that I wanted, and the RP is more or less what I wanted to, but the bar's moving slow. What's going to happen is that bar is only going to get slower and slower and slower. And how slow are you going to lift before the bar stops? So how much grinding are you really going to do? So there is a world and a situation where I think the speed of a day can actually matter. Obviously, if you're 30 years older than me, you're going to laugh at me for saying that, because everybody did a speed day in the early 2000s. I get it. I understand it now. I totally do. And now I'm integrating it. I got you. I get it. So
it makes sense too.
It does.
The not best leverage lifters with certain lifts.
Exactly. And they had speed days back in the day, but it's because the speed was actually a very relevant factor in how they lifted. A lot of them were a lot larger, less efficient. So how fast they were moving a bar was actually a measure of efficiency to a certain point. Because if you're not leveraging it a certain way, it's not already not efficient that way, but if I can move it faster, that is more efficient. So we have a day that they devoted as a speed day. And I've actually adopted some of these speed days for some of my lifts as well, where what I'll do is, instead of calling it a secondary day or instead of calling it a tertiary day, what I will do is I'll say, I need a load to move this fast. And I still have a number goal with it, but I need it to move this fast. I need the bar to physically be moving that fast, because it actually gives me more momentum going into the stronger days. And that speed is an indicator of potentially how fast the other days might go. So yeah, it's a new stuff, I guess. New but old stuff. Yeah.
This is a quick side note. But when you were talking about tonnage earlier, I feel like that's a older thing, as in that was very tracked.
Yes.
As in reps times weight.
Yes.
Times set.
You're talking about overall workload to some extent. Yeah. Which I still think is important to kind of know, because over time you do need that metric to not necessarily go up, but you want to pay attention to it, because if you see the workload start to go down, it can imply things. If you see the workload start to really increase, then you also might start to notice things, because you'll see someone's workload go way up and you're like, how? And then you come to find out that they're moving slower. So they're adding more weight to the lift, but they're moving slower. So it looks like more work, but it's but more didn't get me more. And it's like, because it's more and slower is not more, as we know. So that's why, like, obviously there's been recent, I would say within the last 1 to 3 years, there's been some argument about how effective RPE is. And that's actually kind of where this discussion would go if we decided to do a podcast on it. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess to end that note, what I usually tell my clients, because they'll be like, oh, like, I just want to keep bringing the number up. But it's like, more doesn't always mean better. It's only better if you can like recover from it.
Yeah,
like,
that too. You can move you can move it fast and still not recover from it as well. That's another thing.
And then for me personally too, like I track like workload tonnage, but not in the sense of like it's a good way for me to end neuroticism with some of my clients.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, lifters like to know what they're doing. They like to know enough of what they're doing.
Yeah, right. And then like if they know like a trend of, oh, I'm just not feeling good. Well, maybe the workload you're doing just isn't as much anymore.
Right.
And some people just need to see the actual numbers.
Yeah, very data based. There are lifters that are very data based, by the way. But that's a coaching thing. That's if you notice your lifter is more like that, then you put more of those fun things in there, and then they're happier with it.
Right.
So,
but okay. Anything else you want to talk about with variations?
I think that's about it. I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So the next one, the difference between movement and technique. So how
would you define it?
Yeah. How would I define it? Yeah. I mean, technique is like towards a goal, right? You're talking about squatting more, benching more, deadlifting more. Say I have a huge arch on bench. Does that imply that I move well? Not really. I have really good technique. Like, whereas movement is just an umbrella term for my ability to go one direction, but then possibly also go another direction, right? So if I had a movement score versus a technique score, say I have a movement score, the person with the movement score is going to beat you in a race and at squatting. The person with a better technique score is going to beat you at the thing that they're better at. So if that makes any sense, if moving good and having good technique, they can go hand in hand though, because sometimes you have to move good enough to have good technique. And I've seen some people that are extremely bad movers with amazing technique, right? Mm-hmm. Like I won't call him out. Where's Evan Hawk? Great technique. Awesome, especially bench technique.
He's a better mover now.
But he just doesn't move that good. Now he moves better, and that's why he's very successful now. Because he had good technique, but he didn't move well. And usually somebody with good technique tends to not last as long as the person that moves well. So movement, they do go together though, in my opinion. Like people like to distinctify them like as very separate entities. And at the end of the day, the person with really good technique tends to move pretty decently, usually we would say. I guess more formally, movement is kind of like, twisting, certain aspects of like actual movement. Technique doesn't really have anything to do with twisting less. If I have super good technique, you can have great technique and still twist. So you don't move well, but you have great technique. So technique is specific to the lift that we're addressing. Great tech, good tech. It's your ability to do the lift itself. The movement is the underlying properties, maybe that give you some of the technique. But so they're just two different ideas, but they run parallel to each other.
I see technique as something that can be cued a little more easily, and then movement because it's
lift specific.
The movement is like purely ingrained in you, and that can be fixed with cueing.
It can be learned
time, but it's a slightly different process. Between the two.
Yep. Right, because movement. Well, I guess like it's like you said, they're closely tied, but like athletic ability, like kinesthetic awareness kind of play a role.
Yeah.
But okay, so what issues are technique related then versus movement related?
Like we need to zoom in a little more. Like, what do you mean?
I guess
we can just talk about like a certain lift.
Yeah.
I
like
guess
squat, because squat has twisting pop up.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I move really, really good on a squat, that implies that I have no center of mass issues, that I have no twisting, I have no power leaks out of the hole.
Using both legs.
Yeah, my quads are just as strong as my glutes. I'm not shooting my hips out. Everything is fluid, right? Technique on a squat, man, there's all sorts of techniques. Would put bar lower on your back, put the bar higher on your back. That's not super common. Usually putting it lower is more common. Long femur lifters standing a little wider to shorten their effective femur length. That's pretty common. Like I would like to think, I guess, if people are having trouble understanding the two, one is very leverage based. Technique is like leveraging something, right? Like it requires movement to be able to leverage things, but you can have poor movement and still leverage things. So, so for squat, maybe standing a little wider, or maybe standing a little narrower. I know some people that can't stand wide, but standing narrower actually helps them get their knees more forward. And then all of a sudden, since their squat is more leggy, win-win, right? If we can take this lower back out of the situation on the squat, it makes our life easier. When we can load our legs, stack properly, that helps us technique-wise, in a sense. Like we're using a specific technique to move better.
Yeah.
So
I think the way that I like to think of it is like technique is a really high understanding of the lift in the fundamental level.
Yes.
Like how it biomechanically should be done efficiently with your leverages.
Yes.
Where like movement is more related in the sense of like you can get to the certain leverage where it's the most efficient. So I guess like the next one, like bench, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously technique has to do with your arching and your things like that. Movement has to do with like your ability to do the said arch, your ability to effectively push with both legs to keep both scaps down and depressed, things like that. Your ability to lower the bar straight down is a movement thing as well. Those are all movement quality things. Technique is the act of the movement coming together, and it creates leverage, right?
So for you, like, are you trying to get an athlete to a certain movement proficiency before the technique, or is it like chicken versus egg, like technique first and then work on the movement after?
So sometimes the good technique can add to your movement, and then good technique can also subtract from your movement. Say I have somebody that squats really wide. We're immediately not loading our hamstrings as much. We're immediately not loading certain aspects of our legs as much. We're losing out on certain things. The moment we start leveraging and like getting crazy technique, we start to lose out on movement aspects. Usually the better your technique is, the more movement you actually can potentially start to lose. So there's almost like a give or take on that. And to me, good technique isn't always defined by the best leverage. Good technique is actually where the movement is utilized the best and you're able to train it the best. So that's why, for example, a really good bench arch, if it's done correctly, it typically allows you to do more. But in the same sense, if you move really poorly, then it might just start turning off one side entirely, and then you end up in a real big mess. So, there's a time when it can take away, when good technique can add. So that's the beauty of powerlifting. Powerlifting is It's funny like that. You can have crazy good technique for yourself, but be moving poorly. And then the people that move better don't necessarily have good technique. Some of the people that move the best, they have actually the most simple technique. Like there's nothing complicated about how they lift at all. And they have the best movement, and they get injured the least too. The people with the best technique, they're usually riding the line between what's a white and a red light, and they're, it's just, so they usually don't move as good. I'm just saying. So, there's a bit of play between the two, and they're very different in what each one gets, and things like that. So,
okay, all right.
Okay. How can these affect one another? Like with the arching on bench press, maybe one side gets a little more set up than the other, and then that can cause things to be pretty wonky overall.
Yeah. So say a big arch, it requires me to depress my scaps. What if one of my scaps doesn't move as good as the other scap? One of my scaps is going to get lower than the other. That's a really simple one. Say I have a deficiency where one of my pelvises is in front of the other. What'll happen is as I leg drive, I will leg drive away from that said side. So all of a sudden I am now leaning when it's time to leg drive and create tension to keep my scaps down. That's why whenever you'll see the bar go straight down, but then whenever they press, it starts to move. And it's because they're loading their legs and it's starting to move as they're trying to go up. So like there's a deficiency in the movement, although on paper the technique is done correctly or well. Greater technique on a bench, for example, I will say, just to go on a little bit about it, is when you change the angle of the bench press and you start turning it into a little bit more declined situation, the lat, especially the lat, is the one that you have to really worry about, because it's this massive muscle on the back of you that gets put in a very big stabilizing position. And it's very common in mixed grip pullers and just common asymmetries to have one lat that is a lot more overactive than the other, or have one lat that's a lot stronger than the other. It's usually the overactive one is the stronger one. And then you end up in a situation where you put that lat into a big stabilizing position because you're arching. All of a sudden, that lat, you're tilting to one side because it starts to tilt towards the side that's being overactive. And that's why it can become problematic over time, because when you start overusing things, then you start underusing things. When you start underusing things, they deload. When they deload, they get weak. And then you're in trouble. And then you're messaging me. That is exactly what happens every single time.
For someone like this, granted, this one's like even more individual than some of the other topics we talked about. Well, what would you say is good advice for people who just move poorly overall?
Are they adding weight to the bar?
Yeah, let's say they're adding weight to the bar, and then let's say another person isn't adding weight to the bar.
If they're adding weight to the bar, I would take a look at their program and or discuss with them where their program is. I would look at the very minute, small parts of their program where they have time, and I would just start subtly doing something to fix that thing, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a question of urgency.
That's like, true.
If it's not working, then yeah, we're going to be more urgent.
That's pretty awesome.
So,
and then if there isn't progress happening,
yeah, if there isn't progress happening, then we're more urgent with it. Mm-hmm. We're not taking 10% of the thing. We're saying, well, man, we need to like actually start doing this often and like be smart with like how much load we put on the bar until we get this aspect done. Like I might cap the program at RPE 8. We might not even go to an 8, and until this is fixed. Because every time you go up to a certain load, start compensating, there's no point. You're just making the thing worse. You're turning the thing into the thing that you're avoiding.
The bad movement.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes we have to go lighter. And hey, there now I can say it. maybe there's a variation that I can do that makes something seem harder than it is, but the load stays down, but it gives the perception that I'm trying harder. So maybe I'll put that in there. See, so that's a time and a place thing.
Okay, back to the variation.
Yep. So a variation can be effective in cases like this, because once we slow the load down, then, oh, hey, like now I can fix a certain weak point. People, and I will say this, people that do a lot of variations in their program, they tend to move on average better.
There was something you said in a podcast way back when, or it was something along the lines of like a bunch of people 5-10 years ago were doing a lot of variations.
Yes.
And they were healthy.
Yes.
And maybe their progress was not as fast, but they were healthy.
Yes.
But now there's a lot more people where it's very much, I wouldn't even say like crazy hyper-specific, but it's only the comp specific movements. Like we're only doing low bar squat, we're only sumo deadlifting, we're only comp benching.
Yep.
And they're getting stronger at a faster pace.
Yes.
But there's these more minute aches popping up because we're only in this certain motion.
Yes, and that's always the catch with any lifter that has gotten good at something hyper-specifically very fast, is they are going to be facing a very rough time in a few years where, hey, like, does this still work, right? I'm not saying that for everyone, but I'm saying that
I've seen that.
A lot of lifters deal with that, where
they're just so good at like this one thing, and then anything else is terrible.
Because then it narrows your possibilities for what you can do, and then we're back to that thing again.
I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, pretty good. Do you have any other questions for me, or any types of things that you want to talk about?
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good? All right, cool.
All right.
We'll save it for the next one.
So, where can people find you?
Where can they find me?
What's the address of pod?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm at the gym like at least 5 days a week in the evenings, but I think the easiest way to reach me, Instagram, DSHEL_11. Just shoot me a DM. I'm pretty responsive on DMs and things like that. And if you need any help with something, don't hesitate to reach out. There's almost a point where I've had some people message me. They're like, I didn't message you for 5 months because of this and that. It's like, bro, you could just ask me whatever. I don't care. Like, just ask me things. It doesn't matter. I'll take questions. I'll take, anything. Like, and we can have a conversation about it, because that not only adds to my knowledge, but we learn together. So I think that I get a benefit from that, as well as you, if you ask. So it's win-win on my end if you shoot me a message.
What's your Instagram again?
DSHEL_11.
Let's go.
Man, that's crazy.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Yes,
for hopping on the
of course.
pod.
Yes, always a pleasure.